Okay, so I can see that you guys do a lot of quality control and that you boost the confidence of your students, but why shouldn't parents just send their kids to a learning center?
Well, for starters, parents do like the convenience of having a tutor in their own home. But more importantly, if you drop your kid off at a learning center or at a test prep center, they're going to get lost in a class of 15 to 20 students, or if they're very lucky, 3 to 5 students. And they're still in a situation where they could often be listening to an explanation for many questions that the other students have. And maybe it's material that they already know. So that's wasted time and money right there. And since the learning centers and test prep companies are teaching from their own materials, there's little or no time for the student to ask questions out of his own textbook.
Okay, so let's say that the student's parents have a choice between a freelance tutor and a Math 1-2-3 tutor. Why should they choose the Math 1-2-3 tutor?
Well, what I've noticed over the last 15 years is that most tutors out there aren't tutors at all. They're homework helpers. And so when parents have tutors to choose between, they'll ask them resume type questions on the phone, but they really don't have the ability or inclination to assess the tutor's abilities. So what happens is, time and time again, they'll get a tutor from either it's a freelance tutor or from a tutoring company, and they'll be frustrated because the tutor doesn't know what they're supposed to know. I'll hear parents tell me in frustration, well, my daughter knew more than the tutor. My daughter knew more calculus than him. Or I'll hear something like, well, the tutoring session was so bad I had to kick the tutor out in the middle of the session. I'll hear things like that. And since parents have gone through several frustrating situations, they come to us because we specialize in math. These parents want the best for their kids. And so they end their frustration and they end wasting time and money on subpar tutors.
So there's some epidemic of tutors not adequately preparing for their tutoring sessions?
Well, the real problem is they shouldn't have to prepare. Math 1-2-3 tutors have so much experience that they already know that they can confidently walk into a student's home and say to the student, pick out any ugly question in the book that you want, show me a question that would be anxiety producing for you if you were to see it on the test tomorrow. And that tutor can handle that question, not having to prepare. Some of the tutors I've interviewed have said to me, well, if I knew the material that the student was going to cover, then I could just go ahead and prepare that material and I'd be fine for the tutoring session. Well, to me, that's a real red flag, that's a tutor that I cannot hire.
But what's so bad about preparing beforehand?
The real preparation comes from having a lot of tutoring experience. That's why I insist on that for all of my tutors. So let's say a tutor asks a student before a tutoring session what topics are going to be covered. And let's say the tutor has 3 topics that the student said, you need to cover these. Okay. So a few days later, they go into the tutoring session, and the kid says, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, here's this 4th topic I forgot to mention the other day. How do I do that? How do I solve this type of problem? Now, the tutor can't credibly say to the teenager, well, you didn't tell me we had to know that. So when a tutor has to study before going into a tutoring appointment, I know that that tutor is not performing at a level of unconscious competence that he would need to qualify to work as a Math 1-2-3 tutor.
So what are some other red flags that parents should look for when they're interviewing tutors?
Well, you need to watch out for a tutor who insists on having the textbook beforehand. That's a real red flag right there. That's a homework helper. That's not an expert tutor. If you need a textbook beforehand, you're not an expert math tutor. And when I think of a homework helper, I think of a cartoon I saw when I was a kid where somebody's about to perform surgery, maybe it was Bugs Bunny, and he has a textbook here that's entitled How to Perform Brain Surgery. So if you're at the top of your field, you don't need to get out the brain surgery book or the calculus book or SAT book. You already know the material beforehand, and you can already anticipate what are the classic questions that you're likely to see, what are the trick questions, what are all the traps and pitfalls. And once you've seen thousands of these questions over the years, after dealing with hundreds of students, you can literally be a mind reader and know the mistakes that the students are going to make before they make them.